My name is Bonnie B, and you are watching The Power of Perseverance. Today I have with me Gayle Guyardo, who is a prominent television host and journalist known for her engaging presence and insightful interviews. She currently serves as the host of Bloom, a lifestyle and entertainment show airing on WFLA, WTTA, and WSNN, all parts of the Nexstar Media, Inc. With a career spanning decades in broadcast and journalism, Gayle has earned a reputation for her warmth, professionalism, and dedication to delivering informative content to her audience. Her work on Bloom showcases her passion for exploring diverse topics, including health and wellness, fashion, community events, and making her a trusted figure in the Tampa Bay area. Your highlights include covering major events, conducting exclusive interviews with notable personalities, and connecting with viewers through your genuine approach to storytelling. So thank you for being here and talking about your lifestyle, what it's like to be a journalist, and your evolution as you've grown into your own health and wellness journey.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to catch up with you.
So I originally met you a couple years ago when I started with Real Ketones and had heard about your journey with your transformation, with what you were doing with your own busy career mom of four
daughters.
All the time you're on the go, and you started down your own path of health and wellness. Tell me what that was like for you and what got you thinking I need to make a change.
Well, I've always been into health and wellness, and it really has been to support a grueling shift in television news. Starting in 1988, I date myself. I started in TV news in Montgomery, Alabama, and even all those years ago, I was a morning news anchor. So that would require me getting up in the wee hours of the morning, and that I made my way eventually back home from Montgomery, a little bit south of Tampa Bay area in Sarasota, Florida. And then in 1993, I came back home to Tampa, Florida, where I was really, really fortunate because not a lot of people in my industry get to work in the town that they're from. Yeah. So for 26 years, I was the morning news anchor for WFLA, the NBC affiliate here. And again, that required me to wake up at 1:30 in the morning in order to be at work by 3 a.m. And juggling 4 kids, a crazy demanding career, married life. It required me focusing on health and wellness at all times, and making a lot of sacrifices in that. While everybody else is at happy hour and going out, at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening to go out with their friends, I would have to be worried about getting the family fed, the kids to bed, and myself to bed by at least 8:30, 9 o'clock, so I could get about 6 hours of sleep and then maybe catch an hour nap before I'd go pick up the kids from school.
So a typical day for you looked like a 3 a.m. wake up.
1:30 to be here and
to be there on time.
Yes.
You get to the news station. So walk me through that protocol, what that looks like.
So I'd arrive at around, 3 a.m., log on. Everybody was pretty quiet on the morning shift because we're all bleary eyed. So there wasn't a lot of talking, or, you just quickly understand what stories you might have to write. And then I would go through hours and hours of news and rundowns, because whether it's a sports figure or a political leader, you don't want to mess up those names, especially, and I'm not trying to sound sexist here, but especially as a female. When I started back in the 80s, there weren't a lot of women in TV news. So in order to be credible and to rise through the ranks, you really had to double down on knowing, whatever it is that you were going to be talking about in that day. A lot of it was live. I mean, all of it was live coverage, but we would be tossing to live stories out in the field. So you had to catch up with everything. So we typically would sign on the air at around 4:30. And then through the course of the years, they kept extending and extending. So by the end of my tenure as a morning anchor, before I shifted into being a show host for a nationally syndicated health and wellness show, I went from 4:30 in the morning till 9 in the morning, straight live news. And so you were on every day. Like there weren't a lot of, like, the viewer didn't really care if your baby was waking you up at the night, and maybe the viewer cared, but the news director certainly didn't. And so you had to show up no matter what. And I will say that along the way, when life just kept piling on, I had the kids, then both my parents were diagnosed with cancer at the same time. They both ended up dying a year to the date of one another, July 8th, 2016, July 8th, 2017. And I was the only person. My brother lived in New York, so I was racing to the hospital, racing to cancer centers, running home. And then I started to try to operate life on 1 to 2 hours of sleep under tremendous stress. And that's when I really got sick with an autoimmune disorder and thyroid issues. And that was really a tough season of my life.
So when that hit you and you're starting to ask questions, how do I solve this? What's the root problem? Do you feel like appropriate feedback from sources that could help you, or did you have to really take your own health into your own hands?
I would say I had some guidance. Actually, I was part of a clinical trial of real ketones that my doctor had suggested that I tried, to try to recalibrate my thyroid health and my overall health. I did that. It was very helpful. But I had done just so much damage to my body, believing that I'm superhuman, which I think, a lot of women do that. I think we just think, oh, we just have to white knuckle our way through life. And I paid a price for that. And I did eventually, have to keep going on the health journey to figure out, how to balance my system again. My hair was falling out. I was gaining a lot of weight. I was foggy. Like there was just a lot of things that continually kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so there would be moments of reprieve, but I think the fault lied within myself of just trying to continue on this crazy path, all while juggling life.
Where do you feel like in this experience, the time frame for somebody who recognizes that they need to make a health change, to making the change, to seeing the results, happens? Because I think there's so many expectations that the second you change things in one day, it just happens. So what did that look like for you in your evolution of healing your body?
Well, to be 100% transparent with you, I feel that my body, in order for me to stop this reckless trajectory that I was on, eventually my vocal cords started to develop calluses on them. And it's quite common in my industry, especially for as long as I had been doing it. I was at Channel 8 for 26 years. I'm still here. I've celebrated 30 years last year, but for 26 years doing that grueling.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 26 years of morning news. And, like I said, getting here was a few years leading up to getting back home to Tampa. So it's common for people in my industry to start developing vocal cord issues. So I had no choice. At this point, my doctor was like, you have to step away from this career. You cannot read 4.5 hours of news. It's like being an athlete jumping onto the field injured. It's just going to get progressively worse. And eventually you will be left with no vocal capacity at all. And so I begrudgingly stepped aside, and it really wasn't because in my mind I knew that I should have probably stepped away from that particular role a long time ago. But I think you know what you know. And when you've done the same thing for so many years, it's almost like a psychological fear factor that keeps you from trying something new. So I stepped aside from it literally weeks before the world pandemic hit. They did a huge farewell, the Today Show, crew all did a farewell, all the, leaders in the Tampa Bay community. It was such a beautiful, beautiful swan song. But there I had lost my dad. I had lost my mom. I had lost my dog. I lost my voice. And then I felt like I had lost my career. And I was broken. I was just completely broken. And you don't want to sit around and whine when people are dying in a world pandemic. But
well, that was your whole life for how many years with all of this impact just dropped right on you. So I could imagine the emotional impact now you're feeling that.
Yeah, it was a really dark phase of my life. And then about 4 to 6 months into that, Channel 8 called and they talked to me about wanting to reboot their health and wellness show, Bloom, which I'm hosting now and have been hosting for 4 years now. And they're like, listen, we'll start on a part-time basis. We'll see if your vocal cords can handle it because it's only a 1-hour show and we produce it over a 2-hour period of time. And so, and the guests are doing most of the talking. And, it's kind of like what you're doing now. You're asking me questions. That's what I do on the show. And then everyone else is the one kind of carrying the weight of the segment. So it worked. And then I signed on full time. This September will be my 4 years of full time working on Bloom. We've grown it from a small independent station owned by Nexstar to the main stage on NBC, which is the affiliate that I've worked on for all these years. So it's great to be back. I mean, I'm in the same building the whole time, but we are duopolies. I always mispronounce that, but it's Nexstar typically owns 2 stations in every market. One is a small bandwidth. One is a larger one like NBC. So we finally made it to the main stage, 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. And now we're syndicated in 350 million homes across the country. And it's just been a dream. It's been like a godsend to be able to do this show.
That's amazing. I love that for you and that you still be able to have a part of it, but it sounds like in a way that you really get to have a part of your passion from what you've learned from before. In journalism, you mentioned earlier that the challenges of being a woman early on in the 80s. So what was that like for you starting out versus how you've seen it evolve now?
Oh man, we've come a long way, baby. Like that old saying back in the day that they used to say. I would say when I first started in Montgomery, Alabama, and I love to tell this story. I tell it at a lot of speaking engagements. I'm very Italian, 100% Italian. And my last name, the spelling of it is Guagliardo. So my then news director in Montgomery, Alabama was like, listen, you can either be Gail Green or Gayle Garrison. And because back then it was hard enough to find a woman in television, TV news, no less one whose name ends in a vowel. So I call my dad up and I'm like, hey, Dad, I got my first job in TV news. I'm making $11,500 a year, and I can either be Gail Green or Gayle Garrison. And my dad, in his slight Italian accent, would say, don't come home if you change your name. And he shut the phone. So I had to go explain to Matt Carmack, who was like the Ron Burgundy of TV. He was our news director and the main anchor. And so I had to tell him, look, I can't go home if I, walk away from my lineage. And so we came up with the abbreviated spelling so that people could pronounce it. And then as it would evolve, like when I got my job at Channel 8, my hair was as blonde as yours, but certainly not naturally.
Was it really?
Yeah. Because you had to look at like this girl next door, and the girl next door then was blonde. And so now, it's evolved into embracing women in the industry, embracing your ethnic background. It's just really changed a lot. And it used to be when I first started, I was the girl that got to read the story about the chicken that crossed the road. And then the male anchor got to read the stories about wars, political unrest. Like we were even given different assignments based on male versus female. And the pay gap was just ridiculous. ridiculous. But all of that has changed over the years, which is really exciting to see, because right now, I work with an all female staff, and, sitting off in the corner here in the office, our, a young producer, she's given me one of these, and,
Yeah.
our up and coming interns. I really believe in nurturing women in this industry and helping them, get a break.
I think that's so needed nowadays. Women who can look up to empowered, secure women and see each other and fix each other's crowns. I mean,
Yes.
there's already enough going on. Why not show up for each other? And I love that you're talking about that and doing that. And do you have like a few girls that you're mentoring right now, or just kind of within your circle?
So every college semester, we and our executive producer Elizabeth, she actually has a 10:30 call today. We recruit. We try to like screen and recruit dynamic young women to bring in, and it's a really hands-on internship program. They're writing, they're shooting video, they're in the studio with us, they interact with guests. They do all kinds of things that you wouldn't typically have the availability to do with other internships. It's so hands-on that we've had a couple ask their universities, can I go for a round two? Can I get one more shot of soaking this all in? So yes, it is a passion of, and one of the interns, one of our, early interns, Sarah Smith, is a producer and a really skilled one now. And she's so well versed in the industry on so many different levels that at the age of 24, she'll be able to write her own ticket in whatever she wants to do in this industry.
Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine how that must make you feel to see that you're part of that and inspiring that.
I love it, and I feel that as though because I always do a disclaimer that I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anyone, but I am very faith based, and I do believe that if you live your life like this day in and day out, eventually there will be somebody there that stands up and helps and is there for them in their journey as they try to grow in life. In fact, one of the interns volunteered, or said, I'm happy to write even like a sorority letter for one of my daughters going to FSU in the fall. And so, I just feel like when you put yourself in that kind of energy and synergy and you're around like-minded people, it always comes full circle if you live your life without the quid pro quo attitude. You just do it because it really is coming from an authentic place, not because you want something in return. But I've always found that inevitably you get something in return because that's just the way the universe works.
So I consider you, I would say, a high performer. To be able to be on task, to have a career, to have kids, to have a very structured schedule to follow through and to perform at the level you are, you have to be operating. Do you feel like when you did those things with Real Ketones, it was part of that helping you find even ground when you were doing that?
I do. And I thought it was cool too that I was part of an actual study where all of this documentation was being gathered. I remember like when I was taking they would put all these things on my brain and have me, on my head, I should say, to monitor my brain and screen my brain. I remember that I was so embarrassed that I couldn't answer the questions. I couldn't focus. I was really in a bad place. And then to be able to see the progress through a medical, because I prick my finger every day at work, they gave us a little device to, do, our blood and all of our different levels. So it was interesting to see it, how going to a product that was recommended by my doctor at the time could help me get on a better path. And I think too, that is kind of eye-opening, and it's something that we talk about a lot on the show about, knowing what you're getting, doing the research, because since that time, I think that's been like a decade ago that I went through that study. There's there's so many things that we've learned on the marketplace. It's a flooded space. So, we do try to educate our viewers to whatever you're doing to enhance your overall wellness, you know, make sure you're doing the research,
Do the
that,
research.
that you're getting something that's going to actually help you versus, possibly harm you. So, yes, it was definitely a major milestone of, like I said, I had always been healthy, but by the time I was part of that study, that is really during a time when my health was spiraling, because it was about the time that my parents were both, you know, struggling with their health.
Struggling with their health. You know, you heal your body physically. You heal. You recorrect your schedule. You take care of yourself. Where do you feel like your strong mental game really came into play? And when it did, was where do you accredit that building that? Was it through self-development? Was it just because you were consistent? Like, how do you accredit having such a strong mindset to go through that?
I think I do believe that this particular industry that I'm in conditions you to show up in life, sometimes to a detriment, and I'll explain it, especially in the beginning stages. If I took a day off or I took advantage of my vacation days, especially in my youth, it was such a competitive industry. And there was always somebody there willing and ready to take your spot. I, I'll share a quick story with you. When my now 24-year-old, I was pregnant with her. I was in Quantico, Virginia, covering a story for Channel 8 about serial killers. And I just felt like this pain in my stomach. And I came home, and then I was about to go fly out to the Today Show. And it turns out that she had made her way into the birthing canal, and I had to go through this emergency surgery. They had to push her back in uterine with this very, very risky surgery that I was so blessed that it was successful. They sewed up my uterus with what's called a cerclage, and they stuck me in the hospital for 3 long months while I waited for her to get to a gestational period that she could be born. The fact that she made it to 38 weeks was nothing short of a miracle.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, well, I would turn on the TV and there was somebody more beautiful and somebody younger and somebody that wasn't pregnant. And I never lost my priority that I needed to stay the course and to make sure this child made it into the world healthy. And now she's a thriving 24-year-old. But it was the viewers, and it was all of that, being loyal to the station, being loyal to the viewers, going out and sharing their stories, going to every charity event. When I was in that dark space, the letters, the prayer cards, it still brings tears to my eyes. The people that celebrated, like that stood by me all through those dark, dark months till she was born and celebrated the birth of a baby girl. You know, it taught me that, yeah, perseverance pays off. And yes, the viewer stands by you if they believe in you. But sometimes, going for the gold constantly in life really can put your own physical health into. So I think, I try to teach my daughters now, maybe not always to feel like you gotta go, white knuckle, go, because I just think if you don't find a balance in life, especially as a woman, you're going to eventually pay the price one way or the other. The scale always gets evened out.
I think that's important for people to hear. the pressure. We were at dinner with some other people, and we were talking about that. You've got if you're a career mom, and no discredit to the male figure, right? They carry quite a workload, but I think it's this couple that we were with. I observed how appreciative they were of each other and trying to help each other find that balance. And I think when you have a really good partner, which it sounds like you had a great situation, somebody who was supportive
Yes.
of your career and help, with these girls, we put that pressure on ourselves because we as women feel like we need to take on the world, right? And being working moms, we don't give ourselves enough credit, or we don't feel like we should. We're okay to take the time to do that. And I think that part of your message is really important, that how do we, one, take care of the world, let alone our family, if we're not even taking care of ourselves and finding that
Exactly.
balance?
It's so true. So true.
So thank you for being here and sharing, part of your healing journey with real ketones and what, with the key, where that's going. And I bet that's been fun for you to see where that's evolved to nowadays.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It is amazing. I keep up with your president and CEO from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the trajectory that you guys have been on. And, I was proud to be part of one of the early studies to show how this really can impact your health. So I'm super appreciative of that. And I really appreciate you asking me to join you on your podcast.
Thank you. I've heard so many good things about you through our company, and then, from a distance have seen what you've been doing in journalism. And I think just having women like you, where younger women, the ones you're inspiring, can look up to show that it's possible, and putting the pieces into place, and to have a sense of like who you are and to empower. I love seeing it, and we need more of that.
Thank you so much. And same to you.
Welcome. Thank you. Well, last question I have for you is, through all of this that you have been through in your life, when you were in the darkest of your thoughts and it was just you, was there one thing that kept you hanging on, like a saying or a mantra, or is there something that's close to your heart that helped you see the light and you were like, you know what, I'm okay. It's going to be okay.
I'll just say one more time. And again, I always, when my disclaimer, this is just my feelings, but for me, it's always been my faith. Like during the darkest of days, I would say it's my faith that carries me through it, and always looking at my blessings, like always looking at my blessings of my 4 daughters, the blessing of my incredible husband, Mark, and the memories that I have with my parents, because the reason I was right by their side is because they were 2 of the most dynamic people you would ever know. And they were always so lifting of me. So I carry on their memory today.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining me. And moving forward in the future, what big things is Bloom going to be working on that we could share with the audience?
So Bloom continues to grow. We have tremendous partnerships. We have just gotten aligned with Tampa General Hospital, that I think is 1 tower build away from being one of the largest hospitals in the nation. And we're just going to continue to work to give people the best, coverage on what it takes to stay healthy on a spiritual, physical, and mental space of how to live their life in balance. And it's something we practice what we preach here every day at Bloom. So we're going to just try to continue to churn out as much good health and wellness information as we can.
I love it. And tell everybody where they can find and tune into you if they're not in Florida.
Sure. So we're on Hulu and we're on Amazon Fire, and we are syndicated in 350 million. So if you just search Bloom, and maybe my name, Gayle, Gayle, Guyardo, Guyardo on a Google search, you'll come up and find where you can watch it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please share it and help us keep the conversation going. We can't grow without you. So, thank you in advance for your support of Power of Perseverance.